haven't been here for a long time, and while I don't apologise for that, I am sorry, basically, because I do enjoy doing these videos. It's just that a lot of things have been happening lately. A load of shit. And it's difficult to cope with it, but I think I'm coming out the other side because I've been doing so much, focusing on different things by doing meditation like this. And it's difficult because meditation isn't the kind of thing that I gel with, really. My mind goes there all the time thinking about different things, and trying to still that mind is very difficult. But once you get through the first 5-10 minutes, then you have to keep bringing your mind back to it, and it's fine. You just have to pursue with it, be persistent. But I've been doing that in order to take my mind off of things and away from things, and open some doors so that I can get on with life. And every time I try to do that, something stops me from doing it again, and I feel really as though something is trying to tell me something. I don't know what that something is. There's no clue. There's no direction. There's no door that opens into another way to make me realise that I'm on the wrong path. So the reason why I've been doing the meditation or trying to do the meditation, is because I need to focus my mind and get my mind off of some of the bad shit that's going on. One of the biggest, the most traumatising ones was my mother passing away. It wasn't really traumatic, so compared to other people's distress in life, it was expected. She'd been ill for a couple of years. Prior to that, she seemed quite normal, okay, happy, wanting everybody to smile and everybody be happy, that's what she was asking for all the time. And she had a stroke. A mini stroke, a series of mini strokes, basically. And after those, she kept falling down, and twice she bashed her head, and it didn't help. And then it just kind of like spiraled down, and everybody kept saying it was Alzheimer's, but it wasn't. It was a type of dementia brought on by the stroke. She kept going off into another world, really weird world, accusing us all of trying to kill her. And it was horrible, after seeing her so engaged with life and going off to Spain every Christmas and, basically enjoying her life to that. And then on the day she died, I actually wasn't there. I was doing a counselling session, believe it or not. And it ended at 1 o'clock, and then I had to do the notes, and then I kept hearing this telephone buzzing away, and I thought, oh, I've got to do this, I can't answer that. So I kept ignoring it for about half an hour, and then I found out it was my stepfather and my sister trying to contact me. And then when I did contact them, about 22, I think it was, I spoke to the nurse, and she said, you need to come and see your mother. And I asked her if she was just about, ready to go, and she said no, she's already passed, I'm afraid. That was horrible for me, because I wanted to be there when she died, but you can't have everything in life, can you? It was the day after that was more poignant to me, because I went there. There was no rush really, but there was just a need to be with her body while it cooled down, and I held her hand, and I was trying to stop myself from crying, and it was so difficult. If you take the context of all throughout my life, every time I said goodbye to my mother, when I was a kid, I used to bawl my eyes out to the point where I was really sick all the time. And I used to be like that for a couple of days. A day at least, anyway. And to the point where my stepmother decided it was making us, the kids, too ill, that she stopped us from seeing Mum for a few years. But I managed to get in contact with her, when I reached the age of 18 and the legal age of consent, when I could do whatever I wanted, up to a point. And I got in contact with her, and it was such, that was a wonderful time. It was lovely, get in contact with her again, and I felt happy again. I had a boyfriend, I had a life, basically. But anyway, that's beside the point. She's going to be buried on Wednesday, on the 10th, the day before Remembrance Day. And it was odd that she died on the 3rd of October, which, when you go down to the numerical side of things, and you add up all the numbers and they go right down to the common denominator, right down to the number 1. If you add up the 3rd of October, October's the 10th month, and she was always, always, always superstitious, and she was always going on about the number 13, and anything that you did that was not quite within line with their superstition, she always reminded you, told you about. But add up, 3 and 10, it's 13, isn't it? I don't know, people have premonitions about these sort of things. Maybe she said, that was unlucky for her. But when you actually think about it, I am really, really sad about her loss, and I have cried and bawled my eyes out. And I've kind of drained myself to a point where I just felt this had to stop. Because I know that when you die, it doesn't end. I just know it. I've heard so many stories, so many accounts, first-hand accounts about people, even my own father telling me about when he was ill as a child. He had lots of asthma and coughing all the time, and he was, for a time, spent some time in a nunnery, being looked after by them. And one of the nuns that he cared about died, and he went to a funeral. All the kids were invited to a funeral, but he stood at a point in the pew where he could see the coffin go by, and he saw the nun walking behind the coffin. Now, my dad is a very practical, down-to-earth kind of person who just so sensible. He wouldn't even think that he would be into woo-woo kind of stuff. He was grounded into his sport, racing, drinking wine or beer. He used to drink 6 pints of bloody lager every night, and then as he got older and couldn't go to the pub, he used to order bottles of wine, and he used to drink, at least a bottle of wine every night. And he used to smoke 60 seniors a day, go out gambling and, smoking and drinking and all that sort of stuff. So you wouldn't think that he would be into that sort of thing. And he was a hard worker as well. He had his own company, felt roofing, which is a hard job. Carrying all those felt rolls up onto a roof and working with that hot tar. Anyway, let's get off that subject. He told me about the nun that walked behind the coffin. A very good friend of mine who was Jewish, he used to take me around early in the morning around London, around the bakeries, and it was just such a nice time. It was a friend, you know, like he was about, 30 years older than me. He was married, and I loved his wife as well, so he was a writer. But even he told me a story of when he and his wife booked into this B&B, and he was a very practical, down-to-earth person who didn't, have any messing with the otherworldly, woo-woo sort of stuff. And he told me when two occasions, once when he was a soldier and he was in, I think it was Edinburgh Castle he was up in. Even my ex-boyfriend told me about Edinburgh Castle. If you go down into the dungeons, where people were actually bricked in to cells and died in there, you can actually experience the feeling of these trapped souls. And hopefully they've been released now. Excuse me a minute while I blow my nose. But he told me about a time when he and his wife put into his B&B, and late at night they kept hearing this stomping up the stairs. The stairs were carpeted, but it sounded like hobnail boots on wooden stairs. I thought, what the hell's that? So I went out to the door, there's nobody there. It said that did that several times. And then during the night time, his wife woke up screaming, frightened him out of his bed, and apparently there was this face looking at her when she was asleep. And he said, no, we're getting out of here, we're not in here anymore. And it was only a few months later he saw in the newspaper that the couple who owned this B&B were taken to court and put in prison for killing all these old people. I know it's horrible. It's horrible, but I felt sorry for those old people who didn't survive, but thank goodness he did. But he was young at the time, so whether they were just picking on old people or not, I don't know. I ate a load of cheese last night, and every time I eat cheese it repeats on me and gets it stuck in my throat, and then all the catarrh keeps trying to get out. And because I'm sleeping, I ate late at night cheese and grapes. It was lovely, but I really do pay for it the next day. I know I shouldn't. It's just like every other thing in life that you know you shouldn't do, but you do because you love it, don't you? It's just that your taste buds train you to think, oh, this is delicious, and when it gets down through your digestive system, that's when you pay the price. I wish that the taste buds could communicate with the liver or say, like, oh, we're not having this because that's going to damage inside. But some reason it doesn't. But let's go back to Mum. I think about death in a different way, which is why I think right now I'm able to talk like this about it, and it's only been like 6 weeks. We're waiting for her to be buried because just lately the doctors are not attending the deaths, and not even, usually they say, oh, time of death is, but no, they don't seem to be wanting to do that anymore. I don't know why, because they let all the nurses do it, so yeah. Anyway, I'm getting off that subject. They have to wait for a death certificate, and they can't give it a death certificate until they've had the autopsy, and they can't have the autopsy until the doctor's ready to go and do something or other, I don't know. Anyway, the process takes about 6 weeks, but I've heard that some people can have it done in a day, and especially if you're going to be buried, your body is going to be physically buried in a coffin, you can have it done in a week. But because you're having cremation, where I guess all the evidence is gone, they have to have an autopsy, and it takes about 6 weeks, which is really quite bad because it lingers, you can't get it over and done with. I know that's a sad, hard fact, but if you died and then a couple of days later you were buried, you could kind of like adjust and get on and move on with your life. But this way, it's been terribly long, and it adds to the stress burden, and you keep thinking about it every day, and you can't let go. And maybe that's a hard way of looking at it. I don't know, but some people maybe adjust to that. I mean, it's given you a chance to go and see her body, not her spirit, because that's not there anymore. But I mean, she was in a hospital for a long time before she was allowed to come home. And during the time she was in the hospital, she was only allowed one visitor for 1 hour once a week. And that one visitor had to be my stepfather, not us. But the last 2 weeks she was in the hospital. No, the last week she was in the hospital. We were allowed to see her any time we wanted to, which was really quite weird. And she had this massive sore on her back, bed sore, caught while she was in hospital, gotten when she was in hospital. So, you know, I spent a long amount of time with her, and found out that that hospital was not good at caring. There were a couple of nurses there I could have quite happily slapped across the face, but you know, they've got these notices up everywhere saying don't attack our staff. But they were so mean, bullies, really awful, and to a person who's dying, you know, who's got no strength to fight back. All she had was her voice. And I even put my arm on one nurse and said, look, she's not having a go at you. You know how you feel when you're irritable, when you're ill. And I only caught that because I was there for longer than an hour. Actually, I was there for nearly 10 hours. No, 9 hours basically, from 1 o'clock till 10 o'clock in the evening. And you know, she was meant to be turned over every 2 hours, but from 1 till 7 o'clock, nobody even came in to see her. She wouldn't have even got a meal had I not, you know, persisted and told them that my stepfather had given some porridge, which was the only thing she would eat anyway. Anyway, that's all beside the point. It's just all this there coming out, and it's horrible, I know. And I've got to start thinking positive, because if I keep thinking like this, it's going to eat me up and it's going to turn me bitter. And I don't want to do that. But when you look at death, that's the point of this, what I'm trying to say. Death is not the end. I do know from first-hand accounts, not from personal experience, but from first-hand accounts, that when you die, there have been so many research projects and reports on this sort of thing that you can't deny it now. It's not fictional, it's not woo-woo, it's you know, fact. And I'm not clinging on to this because my mother's died, it makes me feel better. I've looked into the logical facts of it, and okay, think of it like this. There's this electromagnetic scale, radio, whatever it is, scale of light, hearing, stuff like that. You know, it goes on a spectrum, and you can see like gamma rays, radio rays, infrared rays, all those, you know, all those different things that we can't see, and even this message is being sent to you via nothing. What you see, you can't see it, you can't feel it, you can't hear it, but it's there. It's a kind of an electric field, if you want to put it into basic language, that humans are only just beginning to realise, you know, something is there that's not physical, not something we can touch. We are dense matter. When you look at people like Tom Campbell and his My Big Toe, you can understand where all this otherworldly stuff comes from, because he's a physicist, a scientist, and there are lots and lots of scientists who are coming out with God, the God particle, and understanding that this other world exists. Now, putting it into a language, probably, I don't know how to describe it. When your spirit leaves your body, this animation that's animating me, this meat suit that I'm in, when it leaves, it goes into another world, another realm, so to speak, and it's able to be welcomed with love, because this life, this physical life on earth, in this body, is all an experience. It's all to gather information about how you feel about things, how you approach things, how you view things, how you interact, how you communicate. All these different things that we do with this physical body is just collecting information through experiences that you have in life. And some of those experiences are really quite nasty, horrid, horrifying. I mean, I've been through some, I can't call it trauma anymore, because I see so many other people having such horrible lives, and I just don't know how they go through it. They go through it because they persist. They think it's normal. And then they only realise it's not normal when they see other people having their lives. And you think, well, why have I had such a shit life? Why have they got such a good one? It's so that you can compare the experiences that you have. Now, think of it this way. When I used to go to a disco when I was a kid, not a kid, when I was a teenager, at school discos, not so much in the 80s, but in the 70s definitely. They used to have this glitter ball up, twirling around on the ceiling. And it used to, when you looked at the sparkly lights, it used to, the light, there was a light shining on it, and then from that reflected light on the millions of little tiny squares that were on that ball, thousands or hundreds I should say, depending how big the ball was, light used to go on the walls around you, little square lights, and it was quite pretty, lovely. If you can think, each one of those lights is a person or an animal or a plant or anything, okay? It's everything. All of those lights represent something that's around you and you as well. Now, when you look at those lights, they're all separate. They're all individuals. But when you look at where it comes from, one ball, you can realise all those separate lights are all our lives. Okay, but when we die, we go back to the ball. And also, not only that, but the light that's shining on the ball. They all represent, stages of life. It's just a way of looking at it. It's thinking of this otherworldly thing. That glitter ball analogy came from a wonderful Indian woman, Anita Murji, I think. They're kind of like, it's like when you're here in this experience, it's a thread. You are a silk thread. Your life represents a silk thread. And you have to weave it into a tapestry. Your life is woven through this tapestry, and it's a tapestry of life. And when you weave through a cord or a thread, another, you have the mat, don't you, that you have to thread your silk through in order to make this picture. And your silk thread goes, you can see, if you are the silk thread, you are going through this life, through this tapestry board, being woven in and out, in and out, in and out. But you personally do not know what big picture you're creating. But if you, from a soul level, once you let go of that individuality and you release your soul and you leave your body behind to go back to the earth, to turn to dust, your soul then is able to see, come out of that life, that thread, come out of that thread and look down at the tapestry that's been created. Look down at your one little thread and then look at all the other threads that are going through that. Your thread connects with other threads, and those threads all create a beautiful picture. Think of it that way. But anyway, I'm not looking forward to Wednesday because it's just saying a final goodbye to the body of my mother. I know that she's gone off to another place. I know that she's happy now because it's just full of love, that place. When your soul is released from this body, this experience that you had in life, this life, it just goes off into another realm where you can be loved by everything and all things. Just hard to imagine because of the shit that we're going through in this life. And when you look at the Bible, you think, my goodness, this is hell on earth. Because wasn't Satan thrown down? Lucifer was thrown down to the earth. Well, this is his home. I just wanted to say hello, and I'm okay, and I hope you are okay. And I've been watching your videos. I love Peaky Part-Timers. I love, Nomadic Kangaroo. I still watch them. And, it's just good to be part of this little group. It's nice watching all these people's lives unfold and the experiences. I'd love to be travelling around Scotland with socks with sandals right now, but I think somehow it's nice just to watch the videos, bring back old memories, because I used to live on the east coast of Fife. It was lovely. Cold. He hasn't mentioned the cold. He hasn't mentioned how cold it is. Anyway, I'm going to go and say thank you, and I'm going to make another cup of tea, one that is hot, and I'll catch you again. I'll carry on watching your videos and comment where I can. Okay? Thanks.